Wow. 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 My God. This defense is elite. This defense is elite. This defense could single-handedly win you a Super Bowl. Oh my. Oh my. I'm injecting that thought into my brain, and I can't stop thinking about it. I just can't. The way that defense played since the first quarter ended, the way they shut down the Ravens offense. You can also thank Justin Tucker for being washed. That is also a fact, because Justin Tucker is washed. But when I see Zach Bond make some huge tackles, when I see Cooper DeJean absolutely steamroll Derrick Henry on a catch, oh my God. Oh my God. It makes things in my body tingle that I didn't know tingle. What a win. What a win for the Birds. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. 8-game winning streak. 10-2. Can't be any better. Can't be any better. Oh, man. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into TTP Sports. And before we get into everything tonight, if you're new to the channel, if you're new in viewing, current subscriber, or a current viewer that hasn't subscribed yet, I definitely recommend you hit the subscribe button. It'll do me a great deal of service. Drop a like, leave a comment, join in on the family. We recently just surpassed 1,000 subscribers. I greatly appreciate everybody for that. And we continue this journey of surpassing 1,000 subscribers and growing the channel even further. So I'd appreciate you if you hit that subscribe button. Great thing to do. It's a great thing to do. Helps me out with the algorithm a ton. Now, getting to the business for today. Eagles. They go down to Baltimore. Defense does its thing, and then some, and they win 24-19. Offense does just enough, even though the offense did a lot to frustrate us basically the entire game. First quarter, offense couldn't do anything. Third quarter, offense had 2 possessions, and they were both 3 and outs. Baltimore had the ball for the entirety of the third quarter. It was absolutely insane. But second quarter, offense does their thing. They get in the motion. They get in the rhythm. They get a couple of touchdowns. Always nice to see. And then in crunch time, in the fourth quarter, when your defense gets a couple of huge stops, also thanks to Justin Tucker being washed. I'm not going to understate that because, yes, Justin Tucker missing a lot of kicks today helped out this Eagles team. Can't always rely on that, but your defense did the job to force the Ravens to kick field goals, to force Justin Tucker to miss, because that's basically what he has been this entire year. He has not been good. He has been missing a lot of kicks. He also missed an extra point, which was huge after one of the Baltimore touchdowns. That allowed it to be a 2-score game when the Eagles made it 21-12. That was very huge there. Dallas Goedert finally gets incorporated into the offense. It felt forever into this game where you're like, Jesus Christ, just throw the ball to Goedert or throw the ball to AJ. You give it to Goedert. He does his thing. He gets a touchdown. Saquon Barkley, 100% was not going to be as an explosive of a game that he had against the Rams last week, but made his presence felt. And Derrick Henry did his thing too. But, Saquon, this is the offensive identity. Give the ball to Saquon, and I feel like they got away from a little bit during this. And yes, it is understandable because Baltimore's rush defense is one of the best in the league, and I think, probably coming into this game, they probably wanted to target the secondary for Baltimore, which is one of the worst passing defenses in the league. And I understand that. And yes, losing Devontae Smith for this game does not help at all. He was questionable to go for this week, but they decided not to play him today. So imagine if Devontae did play. That probably would have been a little bit more opening up for the pass game. But it's still a huge win nonetheless, even without, not having Devontae Smith in there. But, I wish I could have seen a little bit more from the pass game. I think they were just trying to do a little too much, trying to get a little too cute. But when the offense did find their rhythm, They were churning. They were grinding. The offensive line was just making it a heyday for the Ravens' defensive front. They were tiring them out on those drives, those long plays, and that leads to touchdowns. That leads to Dallas Goedert getting a touchdown. That leads to Jalen Hurts eventually getting a tush-push touchdown. That leads to Saquon Barkley getting a touchdown in the fourth quarter to give you up 2 scores after your defense was just simply fantastic the entire day. There were 2 drives for the Ravens in the first quarter where they were doing their things. There were guys open downfield. Mark Andrews making some just crazy catches, jumping up in the air like 50 feet to catch some balls. But the defense stood tall. Vic Fangio does what he's been doing this entire season, and that is finding ways to adjust. And he adjusts beautifully, perfectly. The Ravens' offense, yeah, they would have their moments. Seriously, they had possession of the ball for basically the entirety of the third quarter. The Eagles' offense could not do anything coming out of the half. Surprise, surprise. But they forced downs. They forced stops. They were forcing the Ravens to kick field goals. They were basically preventing them from getting into the red zone. They made some huge plays. Got a huge sack when it was needed to, stuffed the run when it was needed to, broke up a pass when it was needed to. There was one sequence, I believe it was near one of those end of third quarter, or that very long third quarter drive, one of the 2 long third quarter drives by Baltimore, where they decided to target Nelson Aguilar twice, I believe on back-to-back plays, going deep near the red zone. It's funny because Eagles secondary broke up those 2 passes beautifully. The second pass, Nelson Aguilar caught the ball, but he stepped out of bounds, so pass was incomplete. And it's funny, too, just in an entire sequence, just insane correlation by the entirety of Eagles social media on Twitter. Everyone did the Nelson Aguilar meme. That was absolutely hilarious. It was funny. It was very funny. But yeah, man, it's a great win. This is a great win. Defense was just flat out spectacular. I'm going to be replaying that Cooper DeJean hit on Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter in the back of my mind all night, probably all week. It is insane because Derrick Henry is the man that knocks over everybody. There was one sequence and there was one run in the game where he was trying to stiff arm like 5 people. And he almost did stiff arm 5 people because it's Derrick Henry and he can do that. He has the ability to do that. But when I watch Cooper DeJean do that to Derrick Henry, it makes me feel things. It makes me feel things that I didn't know I can feel. My God, this defense is amazing. This defensive front, Jalen Carter is an absolute monster. He can take over games. And it's so funny when I watch this game because the refereeing, clear, just, they were missing a lot. Jalen Carter, what does this man have to do to get flags called for him? This dude is getting double-teamed all over the place. He's getting held all over the place. Hell, the Baltimore Ravens are the most penalized team in the league. And they had, I believe, 2-3 penalties called against them, if I'm not mistaken. They had 4 penalties called against them. And I think 3 or 2 of those penalties were in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So there were so many ways where it was ticky-tacky on the Eagles, a hold that, was maybe a little ticky-tacky, a little nitpicky, and you're seeing Jalen Carter literally get drugged to the ground by the Ravens O-line, and nothing is getting called. Many Eagles on the defensive front getting dragged down, and nothing on the flag marker from the referees. It's just insane. It is just insane. To even overcome that for the defense to still dominate is hilarious, in my opinion. Even the referees cannot stop you from being dominant. It's crazy. It is crazy. My God. If I just look at some stats for this game, if you just look at it offensively, it's nothing spectacular. The offense just look at the quarters. The Eagles didn't do anything in the first. They were very non-existent in the first quarter. They were very non-existent in the third quarter. They did what they had to do. They scored 14 points in the second. They scored their 10 points in the fourth. Jalen Hurts, he was 11 of 19, 118 yards, 1 touchdown in there. He took 2 sacks today. So, yeah, offensively, it's not going to look pretty for basically anybody today, maybe besides Saquon. Saquon Barkley, 23 carries for 107 yards there, had a touchdown in this. Jalen Hurts, he had 9 carries for 29 yards. There were some very good sequences of back and forth runs between Saquon and Jalen Hurts. Sometimes Jalen would fake it off, fake the handoff, and take it up the middle, get some good chunk yards there. Same thing, Saquon eventually in the second half, as he does intend to go off in the second half, found his yardage and found his game, and he was able to basically take over for the Eagles offense in that fourth quarter, which was very huge for this team to find a way to pull that one out because the defense was doing so much today. It was just, the defense was getting stop after stop after stop in a row to where they don't score any points for the Ravens offense. Missing field goals all over the place. And your offense doesn't do anything to make them pay for it. And the defense just kept doing its job. It was only a matter of time for the Eagles offense to find a way to score. It took forever. It took the most frustratingly time ever. And this is what the Eagles team does on offense. A lot of times they frustrate you. They come into the game slow. They take a little bit of time to ramp up, but they adjust mid-game beautifully, especially the defense. It was fantastic. And I'm not going to, you can't even not give them enough credit because they were just that great. They held one of the best offenses in football to 19 points, and mainly it's 12 points because of the garbage time touchdown by the Ravens. It was garbage time. Lamar Jackson's running all over the place. It was basically like 10 seconds left of the game. It's garbage time. So, mainly, you allowed 10, 12 points throughout the majority of the game, besides garbage time. Defense was absolutely spectacular. Everybody did their job. And it didn't feel like there was a missing presence of Brandon Graham. Everybody was doing their thing, whether it was Josh Sweat, whether it was Jalen Carter being a beast, whether Milton Williams made his name felt, whether Nolan Smith got, some action in there. He looked really good today. Zach Bond doing his thing. The secondary doing their thing. Quinyon Mitchell breaking up some passes. C.J. Gardner-Johnson breaking up some passes. Cooper DeJean being flat out fantastic. Really the only guy that I can judge on the defensive side that really frustrated me was Avonte Maddox. And that was in the first few drives where he takes a bad penalty, which prevented the Ravens from going 3 and out, gave him a free first down. That was really the only thing I could blame on the defense today, was Avonte Maddox. Besides that, defense was just flat out spectacular. It was funny too, there were so many fumbles in this game that weren't recovered by the other team. Everybody basically just fell down on their own fumbles. It was kind of crazy. It definitely was, because there was a Saquon fumble late in the game that could have, made things a little more interesting than it needed to be, but thankfully Saquon fell in it. The Ravens had a couple of fumbles that they fell right on top of, so it was definitely one of those weird games. I think a lot of people were probably thinking about this being an offensive gun show, but this was more of a defensive stand, and which offense was going to find a way to overcome that in the long run. So I wonder if people betting the under today definitely had the right mindset coming into this. So that is definitely an interesting thing to think about right there. But just look at some of these stats here for the defense. Zach Bond had 8 solo tackles. Nakobe Dean, 5 solo tackles. Nolan Smith had a sack in there. He had 3 tackles. Cooper DeJean had 5 tackles. Josh Sweat, 3 tackles. Isaiah Rodgers had an influence in there, 4 tackles. McCollum had 4 tackles. He also had an interception on one of the 4th down plays late in the game as well. Jalen Carter, a beast as always. He had 3 tackles. Reed Blankenship, he did leave the game early with a concussion. There were a couple of situations where they targeted Mark Andrews. Reed Blankenship was in coverage. Mark Andrews made some really good catches, so maybe that's also one thing to nitpick right there. Jordan Davis, Jalix Hunt had some time in there. Entirety of the defense, besides basically Avonte Maddox. Very good. Very good overall indeed. So just great stuff here. And like I said, offensively, it's going to be nothing fantastic. It definitely will not be. But it's just, man, just a great game, man. Just a great game. And I'm trying to see if there's anything here on Twitter just to see if anything pops up that is interesting here. So obviously people are going to be talking about the MVP stuff after today because, with Saquon and Lamar Jackson, all that stuff. So we got Ryan M. Spader here on Twitter comparing everything here, I guess, to the previous running backs that won MVP awards. So Saquon Barkley so far in 2024, this is through 12 games played for each of these running backs. In 246 attempts for Saquon Barkley this year, he has 1,499 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 yards per attempt, 29 receptions, 267 receiving yards, 9 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Vikings' Adrian Peterson in 2012, when he won the MVP in 12 games, he had 234 carries for 1,446 yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, and 8 touchdowns. 36 receptions, 195 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns. Barry Sanders of the Lions through 12 games in 1997, 244 attempts, 1,427 yards, 5.85 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 22 receptions, 248 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. Rams' Eric Dickerson in 1984 through 12 games, 265 attempts, 1,452 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, 18 receptions, 110 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns there. Saquon Barkley's numbers are better than majority of these guys. He has more rushing yards, and he has more receiving yards than all of these guys through 12 games. We're witnessing something special here with Saquon. It's definitely evidence. 100%. Man, here's something from Shil Kapadia. Eagles defense holds the Ravens to their second lowest yardage total and second lowest success rate of the season. 8 straight wins, and there might not be a defense in the NFL that is playing better. Incredible job by Vic Fangio with a unit that ranked 29th last season. My goodness. Crazy stuff here, boys. Crazy stuff. Then we got a lot of people are trying to, put more respect on Jalen Hurts' name. He's beat Josh Allen. He's beat Joe Burrow. He's beat Lamar Jackson. He's 1-1 versus Pat Mahomes. Jalen Hurts deserves more respect. Then you get Barstool Philadelphia putting Eagles are undefeated with the bald Nick Sirianni era. 8-0. That's a funny stat. That is absolutely hilarious on that fact. The bald Nick Sirianni era. The Eagles are undefeated. Maybe that should have been the case earlier. Zach Bond and Kobe Dean combined had 23 total tackles. Fantastic stuff. I wanted to see some total things here by the Ravens. So Ravens, they had 372 yards total in today's game. They had 24 first downs. They had some... basically, they had some good numbers today. If you look at Lamar Jackson's stats, he was 23 of 36, 237 yards, took 3 sacks in this game. He had 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry had 19 carries for 82 yards. So the Eagles really did a good job, finding a way to keep him quiet for, majority of time. He had his moments, he definitely did, but nothing was basically game-changing from Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson had 8 carries for 79 yards. Zay Flowers, he was on fire early in the game, getting wide open basically every time it fell in those first 2 drives for Baltimore, but the Eagles did a very good job of shutting him down. Mark Andrews had 67 yards on 6 catches. Isaiah Likely had 38 yards. Derrick Henry had some catches in there. They targeted Nelson Aguilar twice, and they were 2 pass breakups. My goodness. And then it also helps that Justin Tucker is absolutely washed. Misses 3 kicks today, I believe. So the kicks that he missed today, he made a 50-yard field goal. He missed a 47-yarder. He missed a 53-yarder, and he mixed the extra point after the touchdown in the first quarter. Crazy. And I think they said on the broadcast that was his first time in his career that he missed more than 3 kicks in a game. That is insane. This dude used to be one of the most reliable kickers and best kickers in NFL. Probably one of the best kickers in NFL history. It's amazing how Father Time can catch up to literally everybody. My goodness. How old is Justin Tucker anyway? He's got to be in his mid-30s at this point. He's 36 years old. Jeez. My goodness, he is just completely on a downward spiral this year. It doesn't make sense at the end of the day. It's just weird. Here's a stat from Shane Heff. Jalen Carter was double-teamed on 58.1% of his pass rush attempts in this game. Milton Williams capitalized, notching 5 pressures from one-on-one matchups. He leads off defensive tackles this season with a 14.8% pressure rate. Hey, when Jalen Carter gets focused on the defensive front, some guys have to step up. Some guys are, which is very fun to see. Let's see what else is there. What else is there? What else is there? What else is there? Not seeing any other stats that are popping up here. Not really. This is basically just a defensive showing, and it's absolutely amazing. What Vic Fangio has really done to basically reshape this entire defense, and there's a lot of young faces in here. There's a lot of new faces in here that no one expected to get to these heights this season. Maybe you were expecting this a couple of years down the line, maybe 1 or 2 years down the line. No one was expecting this massive of a jump in the defensive capabilities. They are torching teams. They are destroying teams. They are shutting down teams. And people, yeah, definitely were probably questioning, okay, let's see when they go up against a real contender in this league. Yeah, they went up against a real contender in this league, and they held them to 19 points. Realistically, I'm saying they held them to 12 points. I don't count those garbage time touchdowns. For the entire game, they held the Ravens to 12 points. And yes, Justin Tucker's kicks do matter at the end of the day. He did miss those, but still, the Eagles forced the Ravens into those positions where Justin Tucker had to make kicks. And he didn't. And the Eagles got rewarded for their good play. Can't complain about that whatsoever. Just can't. Defense is amazing, man. This defense is absolutely spectacular. I have no complaints about it. No one should really have complaints about it. This is the best defense in the NFL. Bar down. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're probably the best defense in the NFL. And it's just amazing because on how bad the defense was last year, it's amazing how it's completely revamped himself this year. Man, Miami, the Dolphins, once Vic Fangio left Miami, you heard all the players talking and saying that, going basically celebrating that this man was gone. Oh, he doesn't know how to connect with us. He's not intact with this generation, blah, 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 blah. Basically all that stuff. Look at how that's benefiting Miami now. And look how he's completely transformed his Eagles defense. Maybe the problem was Miami. Maybe the problem were the Miami players. Maybe they were too in their own heads. They couldn't handle the old school style of coaching that Vic Fangio does. And he has been in the league basically his entire life. He was coaching football out of the womb. It feels like it at this point. He's been in the league for that long. Yeah, he definitely has more of an old school approach. And I'm sure there's some people, that are generation and youngers that are not going to appreciate his style of coaching. But it's working for this Eagles team. He's finding ways to unlock potential out of a lot of players here. He's getting the most out of all these players here. And look how that's benefiting a lot of the young guys. Look how that's benefiting Jalen Carter and the way he's been able to take over games. Look how that's benefiting Quinyon Mitchell. Look how that's benefiting Cooper DeJean. Look at the magic that he's worked with Zach Bond, putting him into an inside linebacker. Crazy stuff. Crazy. He was even able to get stuff out of Brandon Graham. And Brandon Graham still might have gas left in the tank if he decides to return for another season. Hey, the defense didn't feel like they missed a presence there. That's a really good thing. That was the biggest question mark as well coming into this week. What was the presence going to be like without Brandon Graham? How was that missing presence going to be felt on the field? Didn't miss a beat. Didn't miss a beat. And that is crucial. That is crucial. It's great stuff. It is great stuff. My goodness. What a team. What a team. I can't complain. It's fun to watch, even though the offense makes me want to freaking pull my hair out a lot, because I don't know why they take so long to start and get into games, but it's been working for this team. It definitely has been. That's just their mold at this point. They start off slow, they adjust midway through the game, and they find a way to overcome all that. Doesn't matter who they're facing at this point. They just find a way. I guess you could say the bullshit is real, but this is fun bullshit, I guess you could say at the end of the day. My goodness. It is a great time watching our football team go to work. So we do got some stuff talking about here with the Ravens side. John Harbaugh on Justin Tucker's misses. He's definitely capable of making every kick. Nobody wants to make them more than Justin. And they say the Ravens aren't planning to move on from Tucker, but he'll be the first to tell you that he has to make the kicks. It's still really crazy about the penalty discrepancy and how the Eagles were able to find a way to overcome that too. Because, like I said, the Ravens are one of the most penalized teams in the league, and there was barely anything called on them. That was crazy, personally, in my opinion. But that's also NFL refereeing, so I shouldn't be shocked at that aspect. So, we do have a couple of calls here on the Anytime Hotline, so we might as well get to those. We got a call from Tyler. We got a call from Sean. Let's go to Tyler first. Let's see what he has to say about this Birds win.
What's going on, man? Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend, and hopefully you ate so much food that you're going to combust. All I got to say is Saquon Barkley. That's a good way to sum it up right there. Call over. See ya. No, but let's just be serious for a minute. The only things that I got to really worry about, or that I would like to worry about, is the slow starts. Maybe we can put a full choke on that engine and try and ease up on the slow starts. Maybe start quicker so that way it doesn't bite us in the ass in the future. But if we can play good throughout the majority of the game, I'll take that over any slow start any day of the week. Saquon Barkley, frickin' Barkley, bark and bite at the same time, and bull rush like a bulldog. This man cannot be stopped, and that's all there is to it, man. MVP all the way, and that's all there is to it. Mean green fighting machines all day, every day, and twice on game day. We bleed green, and that's all there is to it. We're going to be Super Bowl contenders. Can't wait to face the Steelers next week. Let's see what Pittsburgh can do against us. Talk to you next time. Go Eagles. Peace.
Yeah, there definitely is some, and appreciate the call, Tyler. You haven't called in a while, so I appreciate it. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving too. But, yeah, there definitely is. I think that's just the mold of this team with the slow starts. They start off slow, they find a way to adjust mid-game, and that's when they roll, basically. So, I think that basically we're through, 10 weeks at this point for the Eagles? That's their MO at this point. They're going to start off slow, they're going to adjust mid-game, and then they're going to roll. Whether it's offensively, whether it's defensively, it's how they operate at this point. Will it come back to bite them at some point? It hasn't yet, and that's basically hasn't been showing signs of any issues at all. So at this point, I'll see it when I believe it when it does come back to bite them in the ass. And yeah, Saquon is a dog, unreal, man. He is so fun to watch. It is fun to watch this man run. It's just crazy, dude. Insane level stuff. It really is. And who? I don't think they play Pittsburgh next week. I think they play they play the Panthers next week. So thinking a little bit ahead of schedule there. So the rest of the Eagles' schedule, it's Carolina next week at 1, and they do have 2 home games here at the Link Cup coming. Carolina next week at 1, and they have Pittsburgh on the 15th at 4:25, and then they play in Washington on the 22nd. That's a 1 o'clock game. They play at home on the 29th against Dallas. That's 4:25. And then their final game of the year, it'll be a flex game most likely against the New York Giants. And that game could be crucial in terms of seeding and all that stuff. So we'll see how everything goes there. But, looking at the rest of the schedule, basically the only games that are really going to be the toughest is most likely the Pittsburgh game and also Washington. That's still going to be a very tough game regardless. So you got 2 tough games left on your schedule mixed in with 3, games. So, got to take advantage of those matchups, especially with Carolina. Even though they've been playing better the past couple of weeks, your caliber team, you should still destroy that team regardless. And I know Carolina went toe-to-toe with Kansas City last week, and they went toe-to-toe with Tampa today, but I think Tampa Bay found a way to win, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they went into overtime. Tampa Bay won that. Carolina actually went ahead with a go-ahead touchdown, but Tampa Bay tied it very late there, so Carolina, they're beatable. They're not a good team. You should beat that team every single day of the week. Pittsburgh, that's probably going to be the toughest game left on the schedule because their defense is absolutely unreal. They went toe-to-toe with Cincinnati today, and their offense absolutely exploded for 44 points. Russell Wilson had an amazing day. So we'll see what happens there when we play Pittsburgh. Washington, they're going to be tough. They've been slacking the past few, even though they just had a absolute beatdown of Tennessee today. But we'll see where that takes them. Dallas, they've been terrible this year. It's still been Cooper Rush at quarterback, so take advantage of that. And then the New York Giants are the New York Giants, so you'll find a way. You'll find a way. Can we realistically say this team could possibly be, 5 games left? Could they possibly go 15-2? Could they go 14-3? Is that a real possibility here? Because if you compare the schedules with the other top teams in this conference, so just looking standings-wise, conference-wise, Detroit, they're still first in the conference, even though they went toe-to-toe with a couple of bad teams recently. Came down to Chicago and their head coach being absolute morons on Thanksgiving. They're 11-1. That was the only reason Detroit found a way to win that game, was because Chicago was being so stupid. They're 11-1. Their schedule the rest of the way, it's probably one of the tougher schedules in the league, I would say. Just look at their last few games. They just played Chicago. They're playing Green Bay this Thursday on not a short week. They did play, so they played on Thursday, so it's not a short week for them. They play Buffalo on the 15th. They play in Chicago on the 22nd. They play Monday night against the San Francisco Giants in San Francisco, and their final game of the year is another divisional game against the Minnesota Vikings. And right now, the Vikings, they're still at a very good record at this point as well. So that is a very tough schedule going down the stretch for the Detroit Lions. Minnesota is 10-2, so that's going to be a very tough game for the Minnesota Vikings. Looking at their schedule going down the stretch, they play Atlanta, they play Chicago, they play Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit. So the last few games there for them, the last 3 are definitely going to be tough for Minnesota. And then you look at Green Bay, who is 9-3. They also won on Thanksgiving. If you look at their last 5 games, they play Detroit, they play Seattle, they play New Orleans, Minnesota, and Chicago. So I would say out of all the teams, the Eagles definitely have the easier schedule to possibly win out and possibly or go 4-1. So the Eagles definitely have the schedule to their benefit there. So we'll see where it takes them. We'll see. Let's go to our final caller here, and that's going to be Sean. Let's see what he has to say.
Statement win for the Birds today. And to me, the most impressive part of this win is that you did it without Devontae Smith against that defense. You know, they lost their identity in the third. They got away from giving the ball to Saquon. I thought they were going to lose the game when Tucker missed the 2 field goals and he didn't take advantage of that field position. But they found their way. Saquon gets the ball and good things happen. What a performance by the defense, too. The atypical Eagles early rocky start, but once they found their footing, what a job. And I got to tip my hat to Vic Fangio. What he's doing with that defensive unit, pretty damn amazing. I mean, Carolina is playing inspired football, but that's a game the Eagles should win next week. It's a shame Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals didn't do them any favors against the Vikings. But what a huge win for the Eagles. Big time win for the Birds tonight.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it does suck that Jonathan Gannon couldn't help us, but at the end of the day, it is Jonathan Gannon, so you shouldn't trust that guy at all. So, really no help there. But yeah, the Eagles definitely don't have any breaks the next few weeks in terms of, they can afford to lose a game or something like that. They definitely do have to win out, but it does help that their schedule is more on the easier side compared to the other teams in the NFC that are going down the stretch, especially those teams in the Central. So, or the NFC North Division, whatever it's called. I keep forgetting the division names. But it's really important. It definitely is. It's crucial, actually, because Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, they still got to play each other a couple of times there. So that's very helpful for the Eagles, especially there. And they do get a benefit because they did beat Green Bay earlier this year, so that helps them in terms of tiebreaker situations. But the Eagles are in a very good position. They don't have really any more heavy travel left in their schedule. They have 4 home games, and they have 1 game in Washington, which is just a train right away or a bus right away. So a lot of weeks to rest up in your own homes, rest up in your own beds. Not much travel, not much gruesome in anything there. And basically at this point, the only late games you play now are 425s. So no more late games either. No more Monday night games, no more Thursday night games. Basically a normal stretch here for the rest of the year. So you're in basically prime position to fight for this number 1 seed. And that is very crucial because the number 1 seed is the only seed, right, that gets the bye week at this point. If I do remember, it's the number 1 seed. So it's very important. I would like to see this team find a way to get the number 1 seed. That would be very huge for this team, especially with having the early bye week. Getting that number 1 seed, getting the bye week for the playoffs, and getting home field advantage at the link. That would be very huge because that is a huge difference when it comes to possibly playing in an NFC championship game. Huge difference. So we'll see where this takes them. It's going to be a fun ride, though. And this defense, anything is fucking possible, dude. Anything is fucking possible. So it's fun, boys. It's fun. Let's see where it takes us. Alrighty. That's where I'm going to call it for tonight, boys. Got a lot of editing to do tonight in terms of shorts for here, shorts for Brodes, editing for Brodes. So I'm going to call it off. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Also, use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Go Birds!